What are we eating this week? Hello family, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Vicki and you're with Graham in the Kitchen. So the first meal this week, we're going to have breakfast. I took a pound of our homemade sausage out of the freezer. Just going to make patties. We're going to have eggs. And this is one of our sourdough bread experiment. This is bread number 1. I'm going to just cut this up and we're going to have toast. So I like slicing my bread in half, and then I can make the slices this way. So we're going to have 4 slices, 2 for the husband and 2 for myself. We'll come back to this in a minute. Got the standard size cast iron skillet on the stovetop, a pound of our homemade sausage. Each one will make 4 patties. Alright, so we have 5. And I'm just going to cook those until they're no longer pink. And then I'll put the rest of the sausage in there. I'm going to go ahead and take the last 3 sausage out. There we go. This pan is super, super hot. I do want to wipe some of this grease up. Put a little bit of bacon grease, maybe a teaspoon. So I have 5 eggs, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and a tablespoon of water. That's a nice hot pan. And that was a total of 5 eggs, by the way. I'm going to turn the burner off. There's enough residual heat in this pan to finish these eggs. I have the 4 slices of toast in the toaster oven. Let's go ahead and get these eggs off of the stove. Put a little bit of butter on the toast. This butter's cold. I just took it out of the refrigerator. Couple pieces of sausage. So that's what we're going to have for breakfast: scrambled eggs, homemade sausage, and sourdough bread toast. There's still 4 pieces of sausage here. I told the husband he can have sausage sandwich for lunch. And today we're going to have the leftover chicken and dumplings. You saw that on last week's video. We're going to have that for dinner tonight. And tomorrow we'll get together and make dinner again. The next meal we're going to make is going to be chicken parmesan. So I have one of our home canned pasta sauce, a can of tomato sauce, I weighed out 12 ounces of spaghetti pasta. I bought this from Lidl's last year when they had their leap year day sale. Spend $50 and you got $20 for free. So basically got a bunch of pasta for free. This comes in 2 pounds, so I weighed out 12 ounces. I have some boneless, skinless chicken thighs that we did ourselves. Food Lion had chicken thighs for 99 cents a pound, bone in, skin on. So I went ahead and bought 4 packages, deboned, de-skinned all of those, put them in vacuum seal bags, and I have those in the freezer. I left this one out. I have some flour that was in the freezer. It just says chicken flour. That way I know I need to use it for chicken. We'll put that in 1 cake pan. And I do store my used protein coated flour in the freezer. That way it doesn't go rancid and I can keep using it over and over again. I have 2 eggs. I'm going to put it in another cake pan. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon or 2 of milk. Perfect. I do want to cut them a little bit smaller. I'm going to cut each one into thirds. And it's good. I have a piece of plastic wrap. I do want to pound these thighs just a bit, just to thin them out so they're not so thick and bulky. Okay, we'll do 6 at a time. Plastic wrap just helps contain any contaminants. So I'm using the flat side of the meat mallet. And now I'm going to flour, egg, flour, put it back on this cutting board. We're going to try to do a wet hand and a dry hand. And I've already messed up. Let me wash my hands, get rid of the things I need to get rid of, and then we can go to the stove and start cooking. So I got a pot of water over here coming to a boil, and I have coconut oil in this cast iron skillet so we can fry our chicken. Go ahead and get the oven ready at 350 degrees. We want to make sure our oil is hot, so I have a drop of water. And when it makes that noise, we're ready. So we'll put half the thighs in. And that is about 2 cups of coconut oil. And it looks like I only get 5. That's okay. We're going to cook it about 5 minutes on each side. I'm not worried about it being completely done because we are going to bake it as a casserole dish. And it'll finish cooking in the oven. The pasta is done. I'm going to go ahead and strain that in a strainer that's in the sink. And this is the last of the chicken. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. Burner is off. I lost some footage. Sorry, family. So I put a little bit of tomato sauce on the bottom of this pan. Put half of our spaghetti. Added some pasta sauce, Parmesan cheese, and mozzarella. Then I put another layer of pasta on top of that. Some pasta sauce, Parmesan cheese, mozzarella. Then I put our cooked chicken on top with the remainder of the tomato sauce. Now this is going to go in the oven, 350 degrees for about 30 minutes, uncovered. In about 20 minutes, I'm going to pull this out and add another bag of cheese on top. So I have the timer set for 20 minutes. It's a perfect amount of time to get all these dishes washed, everything thrown in the trash that needs to go into the trash. And then we'll pull that out and then we'll add the rest of the cheese. Then dinner will be ready in 10 minutes after that. Okay, it's been 20 minutes and I decided I want to go ahead and add cheese on top. So here's some Parmesan. And some more mozzarella. I'm going to put this back in the oven until that cheese melts and it's bubbly hot. Dinner is ready. I left it in the oven for 20 minutes, added more cheese on the top, then I put it back in the oven for 15 minutes. Cheesy goodness, family. Chicken is cooked perfect. It is so good. And our homemade pasta sauce, I do have videos on how to make homemade pasta sauce. And I'm going to be doing some more in about a month from now. But you can use jar pasta if you like, or you can just have the ingredients, crushed tomatoes, tomato sauce, tomato paste, and make it right then and there if you want to. The pasta is cooked a little al dente. This is the way I like it. This is perfect. This will be enough for the husband and I have for dinner tonight, lunch tomorrow, and possibly dinner tomorrow night. I love cooking big batch of casserole dishes so that we can eat it for a couple of days. It's perfect. The husband and I do not mind eating leftovers. We'll eat leftovers until it is gone, and that's okay. I'll see you the next time we get in the kitchen together. It's time to cook dinner, family. So when I was going through the freezer to get all of the chicken bones, carcasses, vegetable scraps, so I can make chicken broth this weekend, I found one of our half rack of ribs that I put a dry rub on. If I can find that video, I'll put a link in the description below. It's been in the freezer for quite some time. So I have a piece of aluminum foil that I folded over it. It's doubled. I want to put meat side down. You can tell where the bones are and the meat side. And it already has a dry rub on it. So we don't need to do anything except cook it. And I'm going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes. I'm going to check it, maybe open it up, turn it so it can get more crispier and done. So in the oven, 30 minutes. And then we're going to use this box. It's the organic shells and cheese white cheddar. We got this from Lidl's when they had their 10 for 10 sale. So this was only $1. And then I just asked the husband what kind of other vegetable did he want with it. And he decided he wanted baked beans. So that's what we're going to have. Let me give that ribs 30-minute head start. We'll bring you back. We'll go ahead and start on the macaroni and cheese. The ribs, I went ahead and opened up the aluminum foil, turned them, so now they're meat side up. Have it in the oven for another 30 minutes. We have 6 minutes left. But as for the macaroni and cheese, I cooked it according to the package. We'll put a couple tablespoons of butter. And now the cheese sauce. Mix that in really well. Get that butter melted. And now we're going to add about a quarter of a cup of milk. The baked beans I just opened up, put into this bowl, and microwaved it for about 2 to 2.5 minutes. And the pork needs to be 145 degrees. So I'm going to go in at an angle right between a bone. Check the temperature, and that is done. I'm going to tint it, and I'm going to let it sit here about 10-20 minutes before I cut into it. So the ribs are resting, the macaroni and cheese, and the baked beans are ready. I'll bring you back in about 15 or 20 minutes. All right, so the ribs have been resting. Let's clean up some of this mess. And I like dividing mine into 2 bones. So you know where the bones are. And then I just go right between the 2. I try to find where the middle is. Let's see. Let's go this way. Sometimes it's easier to find them on the bottom. There we go. So I just need to wait for the husband to come home. I'll make us a plate. We'll sit down and have dinner. But super simple. A half a rack of ribs we had in the freezer, already seasoned with a pork dry rub. I'll leave the recipe in the description below of my pork dry rub, plus some boxed organic shells and cheese, and pork and beans. That's what's for dinner. Can't wait to bring you back in the kitchen, and we'll make another delicious meal together. Keep that covered up until the husband gets home. I have 2 cups of dry beans. This is a 13 bean mix I got from Azure Standard. Just has all different kind of beans in it and lentils. I want to cover it with water plus 3 inches. So it's almost to the 8-cup measure on this 8-cup measuring cup. I have some apple cider vinegar. I'll put a good, maybe a quarter cup in there. Give it a stir. Cover it with plastic wrap. I'm just going to sit this on the counter behind me. And I'm just going to let it sit there until tonight. When I get home from work, I'm just going to put that in a crock pot. I have a little bit of ham left over from Christmas dinner. Chopped it off all the bones, put it in vacuum sealed bags, stuck it in the freezer. I took this out the other day, and tonight when we put the beans and the ham in the crock pot, and tomorrow we'll have dinner. It has been 8 hours since we had our beans soaking in that vinegar water. And you can see how much they have swollen in there. That's exactly what we wanted. So I need to drain it. So I have a strainer in the sink. I'm going to rinse them. It's a good thing I cleaned my sink. Perfect. We'll put that in the crock pot. Then I have our frozen ham that we saved from Thanksgiving. It's all going in there. I have a quart-sized jar of chicken broth going in. And I'm going to add cold water. I'm going to add some pepper and some salt. Give it a little swish. For 8 hours. We'll put the lid on, and tomorrow we'll have some beans. So the beans have been cooking overnight. They are beautiful. If you're trying to reduce your grocery bill, I suggest get some dried beans. I'm not talking canned beans. You're paying someone else to do the job for you. Get some dried beans. Whatever your family enjoys. There's so many beans out there that you can choose from. I get my beans from Azure Standard. I buy it in a bulk of 25 pounds. I have navy beans, cannellini beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, 13 bean is what we have right here. And I have all different color lentils, but I can't remember if I have anything else. But I buy them in 25 pounds. Put them in a 5-gallon bucket with a gamma lid. They stay fresh. Dried beans. It's pretty much a forever food. Yes, there are expiration dates on the bags. If they're stored properly, they are forever food. You can cook a pound of beans for just pennies. We did put homemade chicken stock in here. We put some ham that we had left over from Christmas. I had portioned and put them in vacuum sealed bags, had them in the freezer. So basically, this cost me nothing. I repurposed chicken bones to make chicken stock. I repurposed that ham from Christmas to make beans. Dry beans are very, very inexpensive. So this literally cost me pennies. And if we incorporate beans in our meal rotation once, twice, 3, maybe even 4 times a month, you can reduce your grocery bill significantly. But let's take a peek at our beans. The aroma coming from here smells so good. Let's take the insert out. And I have a glass bowl. I do want to transfer everything over here. Family, that was just 2 cups of dry beans. This will feed a family of 4 or even 6 easy with leftovers. Perfect amount of salt and pepper. That ham is going to shred to pieces. Watch. perfectly cooked. The beans are tender, they're soft, there's no crunchiness left at all. Now you're probably wondering, Grammy, why did you put vinegar in your beans when you were soaking them? It is shown that if you soak your beans in some vinegar with the water, it helps reduce the gassiness. There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. So by soaking your beans in water with some vinegar, about 8 hours. Most people like to do theirs overnight. I prefer to do mine during the day so I can have it cooking overnight. If you've eaten beans, if you know someone who's eaten beans, you know what I'm talking about, the gassiness. But that's what we're going to have for dinner today, tomorrow. I might be eating this all weekend because the husband is actually going out of town for a couple of days. He's going to go visit Amanda, CJ, and Joey. I'm unable to go due to work commitment, so I have to stay home. But he's going to go, and I might be eating this while he's gone. The last meal we're going to make this week is breakfast. The husband is actually going to North Carolina to visit the kids and the grandson, Joey. For the weekend, I'm going to be home alone. Yes, it's okay, family. I'm going to miss them, but it's okay. I already had a commitment here that I could not get out of, so I'm not able to go. So the husband's going to go enjoy some family time with CJ, Amanda, and Joey, and Amanda's husband, Jesse. It's going to be a good weekend for him, and it's going to be a busy weekend for us. Before he leaves, I decided I want to make his favorite breakfast. He's going to be leaving sometime today before lunch, so I want to make sure he has a good breakfast before he hits the road. We're making his favorite breakfast, biscuits with sausage gravy. So I took out 12 of our homemade frozen biscuits from the freezer, our homemade breakfast sausage, and of course I have my raw milk for the gravy. Let's get the pan ready for the biscuits so we can get those in the oven. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees. Just want to give a nice coating of butter to this cast iron skillet. That looks good. We do have to play a little Jenga here when we're using frozen biscuits, but that's okay. In a 350 degree oven, and I find that my frozen biscuits actually takes about 35-40 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 35, and then we'll check on it, see if they're ready. If not, we'll extend it to the whole 40. Now we're going to go ahead and move to the stovetop and get started on the sausage. So I have a standard size cast iron skillet on the stovetop. I'm going to let that come up to a screaming hot skillet before we start cooking that sausage. I'm going to add just a little bit of bacon grease in here because I find my sausage is not as fatty as store-bought sausage. I do need to add a fat when I'm cooking. Just going to cook that until it's done, nice and brown, no pink. Family, I wish you can smell this sausage. It smells so good. I'm going to make a spot in the middle. We still have a little bit of fat in there, but I'm going to add another tablespoon of bacon grease. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm just going to cook that flour for about a minute, just so it doesn't have that raw flour taste when I add the milk to make the gravy. And now we're going to stir in 2 cups of milk. We're going to let that cook for about 5 minutes so that milk can heat up, activate that roux, and make a nice thick gravy. And if it's too thick, we can add more milk to thin it out. If it's too thin, you can put in a cornstarch slurry, which is about a tablespoon of cornstarch to a tablespoon and a half of water. Mix that together and then slowly drizzle that in here. But if we add our milk slowly, a little bit at a time, we shouldn't have to do a cornstarch slurry. I have a window open so you can hear all the noise outside, and I live pretty close to a major highway. I'm going to add just a little bit more milk. I'm going to turn that down to just a little bit past medium, towards the low, but closer to the medium. I do want to add some pepper. I'm not going to add salt yet. We're going to taste the gravy to see if it needs salt. You can already see that it's thickening up. It's beautiful. I'm going to turn it down right in the middle of medium and low. Look at that, family. How simple is making gravy? Now, homemade gravy is so simple. It's just 1, 1, 1. That's all you need to remember. 1 tablespoon of fat, 1 tablespoon of flour, and 1 cup of liquid. You can double, triple, quadruple, make a 3-gallon batch. It doesn't matter as long as you remember the ratio 1, 1, 1. 1 tablespoon of fat, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 cup of a liquid. And you can use milk to make a country style gravy. You can use broth, whether it's chicken, beef, pork, seafood. It doesn't matter. Depending on the dish you're making, that's the broth you want to use when you're making gravy. Sometimes I'll mix broth and milk to make a creamy, brothy gravy. So simple. You're only limited by your imagination. And you need to get in your kitchen, learn the skills on how to make homemade food from scratch. Stop relying on the grocery store for those jars or can or even the envelopes of gravy mix. If you read the ingredients, they've got gum, some kind of a thickener in it that is not flour. Their ingredient list is probably going to be 20 or 30 items. Ours is 4. Sausage, bacon fat, flour, and milk, and then salt and pepper to taste. We know these ingredients. We can read these ingredients. We understand these ingredients. And that's more important than the convenient of just opening up a jar of gravy or using a little pack and put it in a pot and making gravy. Knowing the ingredients, cooking from scratch, cooking a healthy, nutrient-dense meal to feed our family is more important than convenience. Our gravy is thickening up a little bit too much. Let me add some more milk. You want to make sure you're scraping the bottom of your pan because milk will scorch very easily and then your gravy is going to taste burnt. We don't want burnt gravy. All right, let me get a spoon. I'm going to taste this. It does need some salt. And another little pinch of pepper. That is perfect. I'm going to turn it down low just so it stays nice and warm. And we're still waiting on the biscuits. We have 17 minutes left of the original 35 minutes. The biscuits are done. It took 35 minutes. Turn the stove top off. Oven is off. The gravy is ready. The husband had to run some errands before he left to go to North Carolina, so he's not home yet. But as soon as he comes home, we're going to have breakfast. We have made this together so many times. It's homemade sausage, homemade gravy, homemade biscuits. It's good, it's delicious, and it's the husband's favorite. So while he's gone, I'm probably not going to do any meal cooking. I have leftovers. In the refrigerator, I have the ham 13 bean soup. We can eat that this weekend. Plus I have homemade tomato soup that I canned in October. I have a little bit of sourdough bread. I can make a grilled cheese so we can have tomato soup and grilled cheese. This is not your canned tomato soup. It's homemade. It's full of herbs. It's full of spices, full of flavor. So as soon as the husband comes home, we're going to have breakfast. Then I'm going to see him off to North Carolina. Make sure he takes some goodies down there because I always try to supply CJ and Amanda with anything that they need from my pantry. Amanda has requested some sugar, some Redmond's real salt, honey. I have flour I'm going to send down there. CJ is really enjoying making sourdough bread. He buys a 5-pound bag of flour about every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to send down some flour for him. And Amanda's asked for a few little things that we have that we can share. My pantry is to make sure the husband and I have food security. It's also to make sure my children, my adult grown children, have access to it if they need or want anything. I don't mind sharing it with my family, with my friends, as long as it doesn't deplete it to where the husband and I do not have food security. Amanda and CJ both have requested some of my homemade sausage. I'm going to send them a gallon-sized Ziploc bag with my 8-ounce portions of homemade sausage. They'll split that between the two of them, and they can have homemade sausage at the ready when they want it. I usually send heavy cream down when I have an excess amount of heavy cream in the freezer, but I don't because I've been making butter to make room for the other things that are in the freezer. So if you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up. Please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the Grammy family. In this kitchen, we do things from scratch. Probably about 99% of the time, it's from scratch. We take the time to gather the ingredients, to make it homemade, to make it delicious, nutrient dense, to feed our bodies. We leave the pre-packaged gravy, biscuits, and everything else on the shelves in the grocery store. And we buy the ingredients to make it ourselves. Yes, family, it does take a little time, but if you plan ahead, it will cut your time down even more. As for the biscuits, when we made butter, we took the buttermilk that was left over from making the butter, and we turned it into biscuits that we were able to put in the freezer and have ready to cook and eat. Homemade frozen biscuits at the ready. We have our sausage prepackaged in 8-ounce portions because it's just the husband and I, and 8 ounces is perfect whether we're making a sausage patty or a sausage gravy, or if we're adding sausage to something we're eating for dinner. Perfect size for us. Till next time, y'all have a blessed day. Bye, family.